Trust the process. Pain is power. All great things take time. I am Unbreakable.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Unbreakables Podcast, episode 9. I am your host, Jay Murga, and this is my brother and my co-host, GiftThePoet.
Episode 9. Here at the Unbreakables Podcast, we like to place an emphasis on mentorship. Reason being is because if you could cut your learning curve in half, why not? So today for episode 9, we have a very special guest, a former probation officer who turned mentor to help people in a positive, impactful manner. So without further ado, allow us to introduce
Ana Rosales.
Thank you.
So first and foremost, Ana, we just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to come out of your day and share your story. For those of you that don't know, Ana has been one of my mentors. This is when I was actually pursuing a career in law enforcement, and I actually used to volunteer and intern for the probation department. So she was the one that I was assigned to. So since then, that was about roughly 4, 5, 6 years ago? Or about that time, no?
Like 4 years ago.
4 years ago. And ever since then, we've been able to establish, a good relationship. Yeah. So, she has a really, really amazing story, and there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom that we hope that you'd be able to take away. And this is why I wanted her, to share her story. So just like any other, Ana, we've had those conversations. Just think of it as an organic conversation.
Right.
And we'll start with your childhood and your upbringing, and then we'll slowly transition to what led you to success through overcoming adversities, failures, and hardships.
Okay.
To today.
So I'm the oldest of 6 children. So my family is first generation Mexican American. From what I was told, my parents came here illegally. My mom, I believe, snuck in the trunk of a car, and then my dad crossed the river. That's what he told me. And, they started off rough in the beginning. So, I really, that's a big part of me, knowing that I'm a product of that.
Of course.
Now they're good. They're obviously they've how do you say it? They're legal now. They're, naturalized citizens.
Let's make that clear.
They obtained their citizenship?
They have their citizenship. They really did, fight for that American dream, homeowners, and the whole thing. So it's good and it's bad. I had a rough upbringing, being the oldest of 6. I saw my parents go through a lot, and they're still together. So they've been married for probably over 40 years now. Wow. They're still together. They're still in the same house I grew up in, back in the St. Gabriel Valley. So I grew up in the 626 area. So for those of you who know where that's at, in La Puente, they're still there. It was hard for me being the oldest. I will say that. So I think everything started with all of this, weighing on me, this responsibility to be the oldest, to set the tone, to be a good example. However, during my childhood, I experienced a lot. Being new parents in a foreign country, they didn't speak the language. So a lot of what I went through, I've processed now as an adult. And I think of it as they did the best that they could, But then I also have that other side where I do feel like I have resentment towards them. And my mother was extremely abusive. So a lot of what I endured as a child, it's manifested now in my adulthood.
Okay.
So she abused me physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Like, I can't tell you that I have a good memory with my mom. So that's a big part of who I am. Like, I carry that with me.
And if you don't mind me asking, how long did it go on for?
Forever, till now. Like, I
now.
don't have a good relationship with her.
Okay.
So that relationship has, struggled throughout the years. I've tried my best. I've been the bigger person, and I listen to everybody that tells me like, oh, just ignore her. But she continues to be who she is. She's old school. She's set in her way. She has certain expectations. and of all of us, because there's 6 of us. And I would say I'm the first to go to college. I actually graduated. I moved on.
Wow.
I got a bachelor's, a master's.
Whoa.
I set the tone for the rest of them, and they all went to college, and then they all dropped out.
So you were the only one that actually followed through
Right.
with your
I
word.
followed through. Like, I was the only one. And initially, I'm not going to lie, and, you know, and she knows this. I've told her this before. One of the reasons why I really pushed myself to go to school is to get away from them, to get away from that toxic household.
So that was your fuel?
That was my fuel. Get out of there. Get the fuck away from them. Because I couldn't take it anymore. It was bad with my mom, you know. And my dad wasn't really around. He was always at work. So she kind of like had two faces. Like, around him, she was one way, and then when we were alone with her, she was a different way. I was her maid. I was her servant. I was her babysitter. I was, you know, she took a lot away from me as a child.
So basically, like, robbed you of your childhood.
She did, and I've let her know that, you know, and she doesn't want to hear it. To her, it's like, I did the best I could. You were a rebel. You were doing this. So she will never own up to what she did. You know, she'll never accept responsibility for what she did. So, and again, years and years have gone by, right? You know, I'm older. I'm a mother now, so I see a lot of what, you know, being in a healthy relationship is, being a mother, having that bond. And one of the reasons why I know this for a fact, because now that I am a mother, during my 20s, during my 30s, I know you and I had talked about this, I didn't like kids. I really and truly, I still don't really like kids, even though I am a mother and I have my kid, because of what I went through as a child. So to me, it was like so much work. I worked so much that I said, this is exhausting. I can't do this. Like, I don't want kids. Like, this is too much work. You know, why would I want to put myself through this? So my entire 20s, I was like, I just want to get away from her because of everything that I endured as a child. Like I said, I did everything. I helped her so much, you know.
Were you the only child out of the 6 that experienced the abusiveness?
No, all of us did.
Okay.
All of us did. The 2 youngest ones did not as much. The oldest, like, it's me, my brother is like, we're 4 years apart. We got probably the worst of it. And then my 2 sisters, they're back to back. They're like in their early 30s. They got some of it, but they're really, now they as adult women, they got a taste of it more so, because my mom hasn't changed. And then I have a 21-year-old sister, and then I have like a 26-year-old brother who is back home. So I think she's more of an enabler with the 2 babies. Those are her babies. They're still at home with her. But the 4 oldest, we all are on the same page. We all have the same issues, you know, and the way that she was with us, all of the abuse and the verbal abuse, physical and verbal, all of that has, you know, manifested in different types of things for us. Like, you know, like I said, for me, like, I didn't want kids for a very long time. I was like, no, because that was what I thought was normal. Like, having kids is just a pain in the ass, and that was my perception of what a family environment, because this is what I was
since you were a child.
Right. This
That's
is
what
what
you knew.
I grew up in. This was my environment. So, you know, I just didn't really look forward to that, because I saw it more as work and as a challenge and, you know, problems. And now that I see the difference, I'm like, wow, that's really, really fucked up what she did. And like I said, I have respect for her, because I know that's hard, you know,
Of
to
course.
raise 6 children. And my parents' marriage, you know, it's been rocky. The roller coaster, I was riding that roller coaster with them. But now, as an adult, and, you know, educating myself, and just, you know, I've gone to therapy for that, and I've learned, you know, everybody says boundaries. And that was really hard for me because I felt a lot of guilt.
Right.
Inappropriate guilt. Like, well, she's my mom. She gave, and everybody was like, no, that's not right. That's your mom. How could you
Like,
be
you
like
have
that? You
to
Yeah.
forgive her.
You have
Like,
to.
as if you're almost obligated.
It was
right?
an obligation to have that connection. That cord was just like, but it came to the point where it was eating me up. I couldn't take it anymore because when I'm around her, I didn't feel good. I didn't feel loved by her. I didn't feel like I had that support from her.
And I know
Got
we've
you.
talked in the past where you've mentioned, the times that you would go around, it was almost as if you'd feel anxiety.
Oh, my anxiety was horrible. And that's where my anxiety stems from because of the environment that she created for us. It was constantly like, yelling, screaming, cussing at us. Do this, do that. Like, we couldn't just be relaxing. Like, what are you doing? Just stand. Like, have you guys seen those YouTube videos, those memes with the la chancla and the moms, the crazy moms? Cabrón, this and that, ponte a limpiar. Like, that was my mom. Growing up, we see that, we just crack up. I'm like, dude, that's mom. Like, she was crazy like that. And, but at the same time, I'm like, she did the best she could.
Mm-hmm.
For what
You still justify it. You still understand that
I
everyone
understand.
has a perspective. They have their own story and the reasons why they do things.
Yeah, she has her reasons. Like,
Yeah.
if you sit down and you talk to her, everybody that sits down and talks to her, my mom is cool as fuck. She's fun. She's really, like, raw. She doesn't have a filter. So, in many ways, I'm like her.
Mm.
She's not a coward. She'll tell it like it is. So, I choose the qualities that I
Of course.
want. And then the qualities that I see are like, oh, no. Like, I try really hard not to, be like her. But it's hard because that was the only person that, that I had for many years to kind of like look up to,
Absolutely.
So I just learned to set boundaries, and I don't want my daughter exposed to that. So I just stay away now. I just stay away. I set my boundaries. I stay away. It's hard because, holidays,
Of course.
birthdays, she hasn't really been around my daughter, and it's sad, but I think I'm doing the best for her. Even though people criticize me, they judge me, they're like, oh, you're messed up, that's your mom.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, would you still be, how would you feel if somebody raped you and molested you sexually? And then a family member, let's say it was your dad, but because he's your dad, he brought you in this world, you have to have a
Like,
relationship.
as if you're almost
obligated.
obligated, right?
Yeah.
You have to. How would you feel? So when I switch it and I ask everyone who says, because my entire family, thinks like, oh, she's your mom, just ignore her. And I'm like, what would you do if this happened to you? And I just turn it right back, and they're like, oh, well, yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what you're asking me is for a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I don't feel good. I don't feel like, respected.
Because you can feel that energy.
It's negative energy. It's toxic energy. When I go home, I don't feel like I'm at home. I feel so uncomfortable. My stomach hurts. I have anxiety. But I have to because my parents are still together. And with my dad, it's a whole different dynamic. Like, he's, I have a good relationship with him, and he's so noble. He's so non-confrontational. He just wants everybody to just get along, just water under the bridge kind of guy. Yeah, he's a Cancer. So he's just
Shout out to all the Cancers out there.
good guy, like, no problems. Like, oh, just ignore her, But, we've had he apologized to me. Like, he's already, we've had our heart to heart, and he's explained himself to me, and, I've forgiven him, and, because a lot of times I would tell him, like, why didn't you protect us from her?
Got you.
Like, what the fuck?
Let's take a deep dive into that fuel, because you mentioned that in school you implemented a lot of drive due to the fact that you didn't want to be at home. You wanted to do the opposite. You saw something and you're like, you know what? I'm going to do exactly the opposite of what these people are doing. So let's talk a little bit about high school, going into college.
So in high school, I was really smart. I had
programs.
really
I was
good
in Upward
grades.
Bound.
I had really good teachers who mentored me, and I was in a program called Upward Bound.
Okay.
And Leslie Smith. She was my mentor. I still talk to her to this day. I have a beautiful relationship with her. She's in New York right now. And she's always been in my life throughout the years since high school. And I'll never forget like her words, her encouragement. So when I was in this college outreach program, we got to do summer internships at colleges and universities. They really, you know, encouraged us to think about college. It was a college prep program. So that's probably what helped me really focus. And, you know, I was determined, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to live in the dorms and I'm going to get away from
So you wanted to experience the full college life.
The full college life away from them. So I did. And I applied to many universities. I got in all the universities that I applied to. I got accepted to like UC Davis and UC Santa Cruz and Redlands University and like California Lutheran University, like some private ones. So I really kicked ass and I did really good, you know, in my SATs and everything. I was like, wow. But I chose to go to UC Riverside, local, because they gave me a full ride. It was a small school. I was far away, and there was enough distance for me to be away from them, but at the same time be close to like my boyfriend.
You're like right in between.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I'm, you know, and I would say college was the best years of my life. To this day, I tell everybody, all my students, even my probationers, when I was like, you know what, college is so much fun. I had so much fun in college.
I don't often hear that.
I had so much fun. I had an amazing roommate, and we stayed friends for many years. And, you know, we lost touch. You know, the people grow apart, but I still love her. You know, Bernice, and I still have friends from college. Like I was in a sorority.
So you experienced
I
college
really
experience.
did. We partied.
What sorority
so
were you in?
Latinx Societas Unitas. It was a Latin sorority.
Gotcha.
And you know, I had so much fun. I really did have a lot of fun, and like I said, on my off days, you know, we party. That's what you do in college.
Yeah.
I lived in the dorms, and we just, oh my God, it was so much fun. I smile when I think of my college years.
That's
I can't tell you that I had a bad experience. It was crazy and it was wild and it was fun, but I was there. Even on the days that I would party, even when I was hungover, I would go to class. No sleep, I would go to class.
And you still got the job done.
I got everything done, yeah. In 4 years, I graduated. I mean, got my bachelor's. I was already, my senior year, I started applying for jobs because I was like, I want to go into law enforcement. Like, I already knew. I had my plan. I'm going into law enforcement. And I put myself out there, started knocking on doors, and I was so motivated when I was young. I was so motivated. It was crazy.
What made you want to get into law enforcement?
I think it was my passion for just helping people. I loved, like I said, I liked all the criminal stuff and, you know, and the environment where I grew up. Like I grew up in a predominantly Hispanic community where I was surrounded by gangs, drugs, everything, you know. A lot of my friends became strippers and stuff like that, you know. So
pretty much
you know,
the hood.
Yeah. I was in the hood. Yeah, I grew up in the hood. Like I grew up in the hood. And that's part of my culture and, you know, my upbringing. And I grew up in the hood. My parents still live there. So to me, I was just like, you know, there is something to teach people about, you know, resilience and trying to overcome all of these adversities, or how do you say it? Yeah, adversities. And I was like, you know what? I think I could do something and give back to the community and help others. And I just knew I had a passion to be in law enforcement. You know, I didn't want to be a cop, but I knew that I wanted to help people. I wanted to investigate
somewhere
things.
within that that career, correct?
Right. Yeah, and then I almost went to law school, but I didn't go to law school. I was so torn, and I decided to go to graduate school instead because I got a job. Okay. So right after college, I put myself out there. I did apply to like different police agencies, probation departments. I applied to San Bernardino County Probation, Orange County Probation. I applied to Riverside County, and Riverside County, right away they called me and I started the process with them. So everything else kind of fell off, and I stuck with one because it looks bad if you
keep bouncing around.
Right. It looks really bad if you got 2-3 applications going, you had to choose one. So since I was already in Riverside and I liked Riverside, I said, okay, I'm going to, and I did. I got hired in Riverside. I was 21 years old and I was a probation officer.
Whoa.
That is amazing.
21. They hire you from the street, like with your bachelor's. And I wasn't even 21 when I put in my application, and I was just on it. And I had another job. I was working as a counselor at a middle school already with at-risk youth, and for like a private counseling organization. And I got the call, and I went through, and their process was quick. During that time, you're 21, you don't really have too much going on, so there's not much to look into in regards to my past.
Yeah.
I was squeaky clean. I was good, I had no criminal record, no bad habits. So
you're barely getting your feet wet.
Yeah, my background was good, and I applied to for the position, and I also had applied for juvenile correctional officer. They offered me both, and I was like, I'll take the PO position because then I don't have to work on the holidays. Being in college, you work whatever hours you get, and I was tired of working on the weekends and at nights, and so 21 years old, I was a probation officer, and that's when the real growing up started, because it was like sink or swim,
Wow.
So at a very early age, I was exposed to so much. I learned so much. I mean, my supervisor at that time, I don't even know if she's still with us. Maybe she's still with us as far as on this earth, but she was incredible. I learned so much from her. She was one of the best supervisors that I had. She's just a really good mentor and teacher, the type that uplifts you and makes you better, challenges you, calls you out, but she just made
very positive.
So positive. I learned a lot, like as far as writing, because when you're a probation officer, you write a lot of reports. So I learned a lot from her, and she was very, she was very motivating, and she encouraged us. Like when opportunities popped up, she's like, "Hey, this department's hiring. Get out of here, transfer."
Like jump on it.
Right. So when Orange County opened up for what is it called? It was a transfer. It was a county transfer. Lateral transfer. They call it lateral transfer. When that position opened up, she told everybody in her unit, we were all young, we were all in our early 20s, and she said, "You guys, Orange County's hiring. They're taking trained officers. You're going to make so much more money. Go." So we all applied, and I got in. Like, I transferred, I got in. And so then I jumped ship because I was chasing the paper. So I was making more money.
At that time, right?
At that time. And I was going to school for my master's because that was my backup. I was going to go to law school, but I didn't go to law school. I said, okay, I'll go get my master's, and then I'll see where that takes me, because even though I knew that I wanted to, be in law enforcement, deep down inside, I knew like I'm going to have plan B.
Just in case as an alternative, always. Right?
And I tell all my students that, like, always have a plan B. Just in case this doesn't work out, I'm going to get my master's. And I was kind of thinking of going into like public policy or politics or something. I don't know why at that time. I was like, okay, I chose that specific program. So I was going to school at Cal Poly Pomona, and I was working as an officer, and I was doing both. It took me longer to finish the master's program because it was like, it was a on-campus, face-to-face program. It was not an online program. So it was hard. It was really hard. And I was doing both. And then when I transferred to Orange County, they were supportive of me going to school. I would leave a little earlier to make it to my class because my classes started at 6. And I finished. It took me longer, but I finished. So
you got it done.
I was 26 years old. I had my master's degree. I was already, pretty much settled as, an experienced officer. I think I had bought my first house at like 26, 27. I was making good money. I was like,
what's next?
I reached all my goals quick.
And at that time too, you were still traveling a lot, right?
And I was traveling. I started traveling at 20 when my 22nd birthday. That was my very first trip. When I was already 21 when I was going to turn 22 years old. Something, I don't know, just like I want to start traveling for my birthday because my birthday lands on Thanksgiving. So I have all, I get those 2 days off. So I was like, I started off with just like a quick little New York trip. I went with my cousin. I'm like, let's go to New York. Thanksgiving week, we're off. So let's just go. And she's like, yeah, let's go. So that was my first trip, New York, to see the Statue of Liberty. And I'll never forget, like, wow, this traveling is pretty cool. So then after that, every year for Thanksgiving, I would take a trip. And at first it started off with like local stuff, Mexico a few times. So I did all the tourist attractions in Mexico. And I just kind of getting my feet wet. So I got hooked and I got addicted to traveling. So I was single, no children, no major responsibilities except for, my mortgage. And then I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do with my time, So I was like partying, traveling, trying to find Mr. Right, just dating and I had long-term, beautiful relationships in between. So, all my relationships were like long-term, like few years.
And at this time, with receiving your master's, with traveling, with doing all of that simultaneously, how did your family react to all of this? Specifically your mom.
I think she was proud of me. She was probably like, wow, I think she was proud of me. I want to think that she was proud of me. She didn't really.
Did she reach out and show you?
No.
And let you know?
Never once?
No. See, that's the problem. So she was very passive aggressive. Like she would use me to brag and say like, oh, my daughter's doing all this. But low key, when it was just her and I, she would like make sure she would remind me of like, oh, so-and-so got married. Oh, so-and-so's having a baby. And,
so was it like
kind of rubbing it in my face like of what I don't have.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Was it as if she was constantly trying to compare you to other people?
Always. Always, yeah. Always. Like, oh, so-and-so got married and so-and-so's having a baby. And I was like, oh, okay, And she always had something to say. And, to me, it was almost as if it was never good enough for her. And at first, I really wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt, and say like, okay, maybe she wants more for me. But at that point, as a mother, now that I'm a mother, I could say it. I'm like, okay, because before everybody's like, well, you don't know any better because you're not a mom. But now I'm just like, wait a minute, now I'm a mom, now I get it. As a mother, I'm like, if I had a daughter who traveled the world, had her career, did all these things, I would be so proud of her, especially knowing that having babies and getting married is not like the pinnacle of like the highlight of life. Like everybody that's married and has children knows that that's not always like happy rainbows and happily ever after. Right. That doesn't necessarily fill your void. So it's great, but if you still have that void and you're still feeling empty, you could have 10 kids, it's not going to be enough. Like she had 6 and she's miserable. So it is a blessing, but it doesn't fulfill everybody, So that's just how I saw it. So it took me a long time to figure this out, but to me, almost as if she was always comparing me or trying to find something wrong. Like, oh, you should be saving your money. Why are you traveling so much?
Yeah.
If I, oh, so-and-so bought herself this type of car, or like, oh, she's driving, like it was always materialistic for her and stuff like that. And she was always trying to make me feel like inadequate, in other words.
Got you.
Like she would low blow us in a very manipulative way, but to her convenience, but it's just
kind of like a power play in that way.
So how did you overcome that? I mean, like my brother asked earlier, you had that fuel, right? But did it ever get to you at the point where you just said you just wanted to quit, or you wanted to give up because it was never good enough in her eyes?
Yeah, of course. Like I always felt like, I craved that connection with her so bad that I went through it. I went through some times where I just felt like, I had this void, and you try and fill that void with other things that are not very, I didn't make the best choices. When it comes to love is energy, the purest form of energy that you can give and you can receive. So I think that's on my journey, that's where I started to make not the best choices, all the traveling that I did, and trying to just kind of fill that space and trying to make connections, trying to make something that's not really there, trying to force it, and not only in relationships, but other friendships and stuff, So I've built a good support system. I have my girlfriends who I consider like my sisters, and my sisters and I are really close. We have each other's back. So I just learned to not replace that, but just try and make myself happy and complete in other ways. You know what I mean? But I did make, really bad choices. And there was times where, I felt like really alone, really empty.
Successful, but very
sad.
Empty
right.
Sad.
Successful, but just really, really empty. Like I had a void, and I was like, what is it going to take to fill my void? Like, I don't feel like I have all this, but I just don't feel whole. Like I still don't feel whole. And so goals. So I just started setting goals. Okay, I'm going to see the 7 wonders of the world. That was one of my goals.
I remember that.
And I wrote it down, and I taped it to my cabinet in my office, and I would see it. I'm like, okay, this is going to be my goal. I'm going to start traveling. I'm going to just do me, And I was alone for, there was times in my life where I was alone. I didn't even have a boyfriend or anything. I wasn't dating anybody. I was just kind of like on and off. I got married. I got divorced. And through it all, I never stopped traveling. So that's what made me really feel grounded. I felt reconnected to the world. Like I just felt like, you know what, I'm going to just travel the world, see how beautiful this world is. I'm going to, I want to expose myself to everything that not an average person will get to see, So I've been to places that people will never see in their life. I've experienced things that people will never experience in their life. And not purposely, it just by chance. It happened to me. I made friends all over the world that I still talk to, through social media that, that impacted my life, or that touched me, that helped me, And I'm just like, wow, like traveling really is healing. It's medicine. Wow. It really is, because you see how other people live. You see what's important, what's not important. And what it all boils down to is, in everybody in this world, no matter what country you go to, no matter what religion, it's love. Everybody. The power of love is everywhere. It's present. Like people that don't even know you will go out of their way to help you. It's amazing, and it touches me, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, even if I was like in an ugly town, like when I went to Cairo, or when I went to India, I went to go see the Taj Mahal, and I stayed in my God, what's the name of that city? I can't think of the name, but it was like not the best city. It was like dirty, and it was it was just not the best. And to me, it was beautiful. Because I'm in their country, I'm eating their food, I'm experiencing culture. And it's not the United States, but to me, I was like, I loved it. Everywhere.
You're very grateful.
I was so grateful to be there, to be eating their food, to be, walking along the locals, just experience. I was really fully in the present at that time. Like, I didn't think of any of my problems or anything back home. I just really enjoyed traveling, exploring the world. I got lost in China one time, like literally. Like, I didn't know that I had a layover in this airport in Shenzhen, and I didn't know that I had to take a bus to my connecting city. I thought it was a flight. I was by myself in China, and I was like, oh fuck, what am I gonna do? So I called my friend who spoke Chinese, and he was translating on the phone so I could communicate to try and get a fucking bus ticket to get back to try and catch my bus to, it was crazy. Like, I was by myself in China, didn't speak the language. I just made it happen. You know what I mean?
And you grew from all of those experiences.
And
That's the best part about it.
It's so much fun.
You're forced to grow.
And you know what? It's funny because, like, I've traveled to, I think I'm at 26 countries now. So I've seen 26 countries. I've been to 26 countries. And a lot of the countries, like, I really tried blend in. So a lot of people thought I was, I could pass as, in Latin America or in Egypt or in the Middle East. Like, I was, I would just flirt and I would, I had no issues. You know what I mean? So
she made a way.
I made it happen.
She was a new person in every country.
Yeah, I was just like, okay. And of course,
But I'm sure
it's crazy.
Through those whole experiences, it humbled you.
It's extremely humbling. Like,
and it taught you a lesson. Oftentimes as humans, we try to complicate things, but you'll find that simplicity is the highest form of sophistication, and less is more. Humility
and just being down to earth. And I just feel like, one of the things that I always, talk about is like just being resilient and being aware of how other people live in this world. Maybe you come across somebody and they're just complete assholes, right? Just complete assholes. But in reality, you don't really know what's going on in their life. And I've learned that, you don't know what's going on in people's lives. Like, the social media, there's good things and there's bad things.
Of course.
Everybody's like posting and, oh, I'm so happy and this and that. And sometimes I look at and I think too deeply into everything that, I'm like, you don't really know what's going on in their life. Like,
they only portray the good stuff.
Right. They're not going to post the bad stuff, because then that's a little weird when you post all the bad. So. But
you know what's going on in your life, and you can be that person just the same way that Leslie Smith was to you, giving you that positivity. You're able to do that to them now, and that's the best part of life.
Right. And, it's crazy because every year I traveled, I felt like I grew as a human being. Like, I'm a very spiritual, I'm not, super religious. I don't go to church every Sunday, but, I'm very spiritual and I have my beliefs. I have faith, and everywhere in the world, no matter what religion,
you respect it.
I was respected. Kindness, love, respect, being humble. And I was like, wow, like, even though we all have different backgrounds, we all speak different languages, it's amazing the connection that the sense of community and the connection that anywhere in the world, kindness and love and just being polite and being respectful, that will get you places,
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
let's go back to, you had graduated from Cal Poly, you got your master's, you're 26 years old, and you start your traveling and you do all of that, because I had asked you about your mom. You know, was she involved with that? So you do the lateral switch to Orange County, and then what happens after that when you start working for Orange County?
I was there for how long did I 15 years, I want to say. I was there for 15 years. I had a beautiful career there. I worked so many different assignments. I'm not sure. Law enforcement, there's a lot of things you could do. I worked with juveniles and I worked with adult offenders. So I supervised adult offenders and juveniles. So I was a field officer, and I kind of jumped around and I did different assignments. But once again, while I was there, I grew professionally, and I started teaching. I started teaching criminal justice at different colleges and universities at part-time, again, to supplement my travel fund and my bad choices, financially. I was just like, I had to do what I had to do. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, that was my plan B. So I started teaching. And how I started teaching, and this is a funny story, I don't think anybody knows how I started teaching. I have a friend who was already teaching at he works for LA County Department of Education, and he had his master's. We both went to school together. So he did an internship out in the desert where they teach professionals how to be community college instructors. So he got trained, and then he started teaching. He was teaching sociology and all other cool stuff. And he asked me to be his guest speaker.
Oh, wow.
Right? And I was like, he's like, you're a probation officer. He would ask me periodically throughout the years. And I was like, I was not shy, but I was like too nervous. And I was like, public speaking.
How old were you at this age?
I was like 20. Yeah, it was right after we graduated with our master's. So 26, 27. I think I was like 27. And he's like, come be my guest speaker. And I said, what do I say? He's like, just talk about your job. I'll give you questions and then just answer them. Just be yourself. Because like I said, we went to school together. So I was already a probation officer and he was already in his career. So, we built this bond. So we became friends. And I said, okay, fine. I'll go be your guest speaker at it was a sociology class. Sociology like 101. So I went and I did my thing. I spoke in front of all his students, and some of them wanted to pursue a career in law enforcement. And then like the next week or so, he calls me and he's like, oh my God, they loved you. Oh my God, you have to come to my other class. They can't stop talking about you. They loved you. They blah, blah, blah. He's like, you're really good at this. He's like, why don't you teach? And I'm like, teach what? And he's like, well, your field, your criminal justice. And I was like, I never thought about it. And I'm like, okay, I'll come, I'll go again. So then I did it a few times. I was his guest speaker and I liked it. For some reason, once I started talking, the nerves fell off. And
it just came natural, right?
It came natural to me. And I'm like, you know what? And so then I got involved mentoring at work through our volunteer services. And I had mentors, interns.
I was one of them, guys.
Yes, she was my intern. And then the funny thing is, like, I started like developing these professional relationships that led to me mentoring some of my interns. So I still talk to a lot of my interns. I have relationships, and all of my interns are successful, and they're living their lives. Hi, some of you see this. They're and I know that I made an impact on them. Like, I know that they looked up to me at one point or another, and I'm like, wow, I did that. I helped somebody. And on top of my probationers, a lot of my probationers that I worked with, that I supervised, that I gave chances to, that I talked to, that I yelled at, that I arrested, that I
you were just really raw. That's the thing. And I could say that firsthand. Is like, for those of you that don't know, that was the direction that I was going towards for the last, I want to say 8-9 years. 30 years old now. 9 years was law enforcement, pre-academy, volunteering, interning, education. I did everything I was supposed to do. And then when I became intern under her, she just told it like it is. Gave all the right advice, guys.
Yeah.
And that's why you stood out most compared to a lot of mentors, because a lot of people are going to sugarcoat things.
Right. They are, and there's a lot of loopholes, and there's a lot of things people don't share. They don't want to say for whatever reason. They're scared. They don't want to be honest with themselves, but it's true. Some people truly are really good at what they do, and they end up having beautiful long-term careers, and they retire from it, and and they're happy and they're content. But some other people are not happy, and you could see that, and you saw that.
Yeah.
And they're not happy at work, and
they become kind of like robots, right?
Right. They half-ass everything, and they become complacent, and they're just horrible at what they do. But I truly, when I say I loved my job, I really loved my job. Like, there was a point where I loved going to work. I had such great coworkers that I still have, I still have relationships with them. I'm still friends with them. We had so much fun. We actually liked going to work. We would go out in the field together. It'd be like 7, 8 o'clock at night, and we would all still be together at work, working together. And, we all had to be back early in the morning, and okay, well, I guess we got to go, because we enjoyed the teamwork. Law enforcement, if you have a good team and good support and good supervisor, it's awesome. Like, the adrenaline rush, the laughs, the shit you get into, it is such a fun career, and it's like the rush of, oh my God, am I going to get shot, or am I going to get killed, or, stuff like that. It's just,
you're living on the edge.
It always kept you on your toes.
It keeps you on your toes. It's awesome. It's so much fun. It really is. But if you're in a cool assignment. But then there's times when you're not in a good assignment, or you don't have a good boss, and it just becomes, political, catty, kind of like you're in high school all over again. And once you fall in that dark hole, or that you go through that, that rabbit tunnel or whatnot, it's just hard. And it starts to eat away at you, because you're not having fun at work. You don't like what you do. And the politics are just too heavy, and it's just too much,
Yeah.
So what happened there, I got pregnant while I was there. I got pregnant, and...
Is this about 10 years in, 15 years in?
Well, I just had a baby 15 months ago. So I retired October 2018.
Okay.
So what are we in, 2019? So yeah, like not even a year ago.
Okay. So you were in what 17, almost 18 years?
It was 17 years. I hit my 17 years in November last. Yeah. So I retired. I pulled the plug. But what happened was I got pregnant, and it was a high risk pregnancy. So though I didn't like the way I was being, I just didn't like the way that I was treated during that time when I was pregnant, and having the issues that I had with my pregnancy, and
that was a smart move, because the infant will start downloading all the stress while they're in the uterus.
Well,
so that's super crucial.
Yeah.
You felt it, right?
I felt it. I felt the negativity, the energy, the way that I was being treated. And I was like, wow. And that's when it hit me. Like, an organization, sometimes they just truly don't give a fuck about their employees. They don't care about you. You're just a number to them. And they might say, oh, we value family and all this stuff. But what I was seeing was, it was contradicting everything I was seeing. And up until that point, I loved my job. I loved my unit. I loved my coworkers. But then administration, I don't know what happened. They just started doing all these weird stuff. And then, like, things started changing. It became like all about statistics and recording and data. And I was like a data entry specialist, basically. But that's besides the point. The point is, I got pregnant. And during that time, I got moved to another unit. And that supervisor, she was a new supervisor to me, and I was pregnant. she was just awful, horrible. It was like the worst supervisor I've ever experienced in my life. And I was just sitting there looking at her like, is this bitch serious? Like, do you really think you're smart? She over-explained things, and she was a fucking idiot. And everybody loved her, like all the admin people loved her. And to me, I was just like, wow, just looking for mistakes, looking like, those people that are they just strive on the negative instead of, like, to me, a good leader inspires, motivates, helps, okay, this, you could do this. But no, she was there just for like Q&A. Nitpicking. Yeah, she was there for a specific reason. So I was like, okay, I get it. I'm not wanted here anymore. I got pregnant and I got what was going on. I was like, okay, damn, somebody don't like me. Yeah.
Because I know we've had conversations too, where when you just got pregnant and you're like, I can't take it. Like, it was so stressful.
It was too stressful. And then plus I was having all these issues with my pregnancy. My doctor was like, I need to get you out of there. So medically, I had to like leave that position. I couldn't, because my belt, my tactic, like I had to wear like pants and my vest and all the tactical gear we wear. It would hurt my stomach, and my vest didn't even fit me. I was gaining weight, and it was just too much. So I got out of there. So then I left, and then after that I had to go on maternity leave. So I think up until that point, just basically it's the way that at the end, the way that I felt like, things were going, I was like, I'm going to be away from my baby 50 hours a week, because I was commuting, I was going to be on that freeway for an hour and a half to and from. That's 3 hours a day on top of my 40 hours a week load. And I told my boyfriend, I said, I can't do this. There's no way. I'm like, I can't leave her. Like, I can't do it. Like, I thought about it for the entire time I was home with my baby. I said, I can't leave her. Like, I would have to put her in daycare all day. And it was a sacrifice for me that I had to choose my career, my safety retirement. I was 3 years away from being able to collect. I was almost going to hit that 20-year mark. And I was like, or be a stay-at-home mom for a little bit, and then I'll figure something out. Because I was teaching part-time. I was teaching criminal justice during that time. And I remember when I was on maternity leave, I talked to you.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I felt that pull, like it would not leave me alone.
Same pull that I felt.
It wouldn't leave me alone. I was like, it's a feeling as if your gut, like your stomach hurts, like it's a pull, like, and everyone's like, dude, you know how hard it is to get a job in the county? And you have a good job, good security, you're making good money, like, why would you want to leave that, And I was just kind of like, I know this is crazy, but I'm just gonna stay still for a minute. I'm gonna listen to my inner voice. And a lot of people would tell me,
that's powerful, though.
Listen to your inner voice, listen to your gut feeling, like your intuition. And I've always struggled with that, because I was always like, oh, I'm gonna go with what my heart says, like, just listen to your heart and your gut. No,
it's conflicting. It's different sometimes.
Mentally, your heart, what you're feeling, and then your gut. And I was like, okay, what is this that I feel? I have an amazing career in law enforcement. I do teach part-time. I was teaching still. I was still teaching criminal justice at the college. And I'm a new mom. So all these new hormones and oxytocin, and I'm carrying my baby, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like, man, I got to go back to work in October. This was last year around this time. My maternity leave was going to be over in October of 18. And I'm like, always talking to my boyfriend, and we bought a house together. We were freshly in our house. We had our new baby, new house. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? And he's like, this is your call, babe. Like, whatever you want to do. And I was like, what if I want to be a stay-at-home mom? And he's like, if that's what you want to do, that's okay, but I don't see you as a stay-at-home mom. That's what he would tell you. That's what he tells me. I don't know. I don't see you as a stay-at-home mom. And I'm like, this is a whole new me. Like, no one, you just don't know until you have a baby yourself. It's crazy. Like, every person out there that has children, they already know. But sometimes you don't have a choice, you know? And I think because the universe has its way, the energy that you put out, I'm a big believer. I've told you this. All the energy I mean, I helped so many people. Like, since I was 21, I was a PO. So I helped so many people. Karma, dude. Karma. Karma is real. I know I helped so many people in my life, you know, and I think that all the karma that I put out, it's coming to me. Like, you know, I've had bad karma and I've had good karma. And, you know, you got to watch your thoughts. You really do got to watch how you treat people. You really do, because I've come close to fucking it all up. I really have. You know, I have a DUI. I have a DUI. And I was a PO when I got my DUI.
Wow.
I was in my 20s.
I didn't even know that.
I got a DUI. Yeah. And I was partying. I was, you know, like I said, I've made mistakes. I was this close to losing it all, like on several occasions, you know, from relationships to, like, you know, I am divorced. You know, I experienced that loss. That hit me hard. I fell into like a depression, and I was all fucked up for like a few years after my divorce, because to me, I was like, well, what am I going to do now? You know, like, I didn't know what I didn't know. It took me a while to rebuild myself and get to know me and who I am, my purpose here. So sometimes what people don't understand or they don't want to deal with, and this is where fear comes into play. You're so scared to make that move. You're so scared of the unknown that you stay in the situation that you do not belong to, even though you feel that pull, you feel like that gut instinct, you know. And I felt it many times, and I didn't walk away. I didn't leave. I ignored it, you know. And finally, because I was not willing to sacrifice my daughter, the time with her, I said, okay, now I'm gonna have to listen to my gut.
Wow.
You know. And so at that time, I just said, okay, you know, I'm not gonna go back. And he was my boyfriend was like, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. I'm like, are you sure you're gonna be okay, you know, taking care of us?
In other words,
like, we'll make it work, you know. I was like, all right. So just, I don't know from where or how, boom, from the sky, I got a call. Hey, it was my old dean, right? During that time, he was my dean, my boss at the school. He's like, he gave me a heads up. He goes, hey, I just want to let you know, I applied to different positions. He just finished his doctorate, and he got his PhD, and he was graduating in December, and he was already applying, and he was going on interviews all over. He was putting himself out there. He's like, I'm letting you know, if I get a call, I'm out. So that means that this position is going to free up at the community college where I was already working for like 8 years during that time. I'm like, what? And I'm like, I don't have a job right now. I'm like, are you serious?
So nothing's stopping you.
Right. So with that said, since, you know, I had my master's, I was already teaching. I always wanted to teach full time. I had applied before and I never got it. I had applied to other schools. I applied to like Pasadena, East LA College, Rio Hondo College, where I went to. I never got a call back, nothing. Like, I didn't make the second round of interviews, or for whatever reason, I always got cut, right?
But the moment you followed that pull, it happened.
And this time,
way.
I got the call and they're like, hey, I'm giving you a heads up. Are you ready? To get a job as a community college professor in California is hard, okay? Let me just say it's hard. Like a full-time tenure track position. It's not easy. It's hard. And I had been trying for many years. So like 4 years prior to this, I had applied for full time, and I got cut at the second round of interviews. It's like multiple interviews, panels, and it's
the whole process.
It's the whole process. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get ready this time. I'll be ready. And my mindset was somewhere else. So I'm like, I'm ready. I'm going to be focused. And he's like, this is going to be really hard. It's competitive, so you better put your game face on. I'm like, all right, I'll be ready. So he left. They opened up the position for a temporary position, and I applied. I competed. I got it. Wow, and then awesome. It was only temporary. And then once again, they had to reopen it up again, and they opened it up to everybody. So I basically had to fight for that job. They reopened it again. I went through the whole process, application, interview, teaching demo, panel interviews with the superintendent and the president, and all of that. I mean, anybody who works in higher education understands the process, just as all of the law enforcement family out there that are in these positions. They know that job wasn't given to them. You
gotta really fight for it.
You gotta fight for these jobs, and you gotta work your fucking ass off to have a badge. I have a lot of respect for people in law enforcement. That was like the family that I was in. Military, law enforcement, like that's where my heart is. And now I'm teaching the future generation of law enforcement. So now I'm like, I have to really be careful, because now
you're setting them up for success, in other words.
And I'm letting them know, like, these are the mistakes that are going to get you fired, and this is what you need to do to survive, because it's very political, and if someone don't like you, that could be it for you. You could get blackballed. And so it's really a lot of
politics, right?
Yeah, it is. And so for me, I had really good mentors once again. My partner at the school, he has my back, and he mentored me, because we had this connection too. And he's like, and all, just everybody working at a school environment is so positive. It's completely different than law enforcement, and I loved that environment. The positivity. Everybody's so hungry, everybody's so thirsty, like for success. And then there's people that are just, they're going to come for your job. And you got to be on your toes, because there's a lot of people out there that are hungry, that are thirsty. You got your sheeps, you got your wolves, you got your lions, you got your eagles. People are who they are, right? And sometimes you're competing with everybody, and the best will win. And sometimes it's just tenacity, perseverance, motivation, just being consistent, and that's, I feel like my 21-year-old me came out, like that after becoming a mother, like a new me was born.
Like that energy.
That energy came back, that love, that like primal, like,
the passion,
the
right?
passion, like just aggression to fight for what I want again, for her, for my baby, because my schedule is completely different now, and I'm not away from her, not even close to 40 hours a week, but I work a lot from home, and it's a very pro family environment, very positive environment, supportive. Everybody's so supportive, and they want you there. They want you to be successful, and it's different.
So you are teaching full time now,
I'm
right?
teaching full time, yeah.
And you're mentoring.
I'm mentoring, yes.
So
and I'm teaching full time.
I need to ask you. So it is a different environment, considering as a probation officer and even being in law enforcement. Taking yourself back, you got into law enforcement wanting to help people, right?
Absolutely.
But at that time, I hate to say it, but you were helping people that were coming out of jail and or prison. So was it an adjustment for you going from that to now helping students and, college people that wanted to get into law enforcement or even set up for success to live in the real world?
See, that's one of the reasons why I also left. So when I left my career in law enforcement, since I was working with offenders, that was one of the reasons why it became disappointing, because there's not a lot of resources for people.
Yeah.
There's not much you can do. The system itself is not really designed to help people succeed, right? It's a system that is there, it's been established for years, but it's really flawed.
Yeah.
And if you have a felony, there's a lot of things you cannot do. There's a lot of places you cannot apply. You can't vote. There's collateral consequences to that are long lasting, permanent. So there's not much. So I was trying to help people. A lot of times I was just trying to help them stay clean, stay off the needle, stay off the dope. A lot of times, they can't even get a job, or they're in the street, they're mentally ill. So it really is draining. It's draining, and if you don't rotate and do something else, it could really eat away at you if you care. And I know everybody that cares.
Yeah, if you care.
If you care.
The main thing.
It's those people that don't care. They're just there for the paycheck. They don't care. I don't give a fuck about them. I'm just here for my paycheck. And you know who those people are.
Yeah.
They just don't care. But I truly cared about my clients, and I wanted them to be successful. And by successful, I mean just get off probation. Don't come back anymore. I'm going to help you stay away, but then it's a revolving door, because
Cycle.
Yeah.
it's a cycle. Some of them, they get rearrested, they reoffend, they relapse on drugs. And it was really, really sad after a while to see.
There was almost there's nothing you can do.
There's nothing you
at that
could
point.
do. And anybody that works in the correction side knows that. Even people that work, the CEOs that work in the prisons, they see that. People leave, they're all happy and excited, and then they come right back.
Yeah.
And sometimes they come back for stupid reasons. Like, they'll get arrested for stupid reasons. The system is broken. The system is, that's why we have all of this reform. We have, I can go on and on, but this is not, one of my classes. But but there is a need for reform, and the plea bargaining system and the racial injustice and disparity within the criminal justice system make it very difficult for people of color to be successful. They set you up. They really do. But if you have money and you know your rights and you have a good lawyer, you could probably survive it. But it's not set up that way.
For the majority of people that don't.
It's not set up that way. No,
Yeah.
you can't. So we need reform, and they're working on it. The government.
Everything takes time.
Everything takes time. I do believe that. So.
And it's such an honor to have you here, because mentorship is key.
Yeah.
And especially for the Unbreakables podcast, we want to be the source for mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
Those of you out there that are looking for a mentor but don't have one, oftentimes we find an excuse to not do the things that we want to do based out of fear. And a lot of times an excuse is capital, not having enough currency to fulfill your dreams and to fulfill what you'd like to do, or you just don't have a mentor. You're not surrounding yourself with the right people. We are getting mentored by Think Big, Work Small. His name is David Albanese. He has an amazing mentorship program. He actually is going to provide you capital to get what you need to get done, and he's going to teach you how to take immediate action. So follow Think Big, Work Small on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, and he just launched his YouTube channel. That is Think Big, Work Small. Shout out David Albanese.
And we will actually include the link below, so you guys check out the link below.
Anna, we do something on the podcast. It's a little tradition. We started episode 5.
Okay.
We have a special deck here, and it's the universe talking to you.
Oh.
So we're not asking this question. It's the universe.
Oh, I like this.
So this is called Deep Dive with
Okay.
the Unbreakables, okay?
Okay.
So we'll allow you to choose 2 cards of your choice.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh.
Okay.
I won't look at this one.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, how many is that? You got 2?
2. Yeah.
Perfect. So what does the first card say?
How do you become successful? Okay. So I'm supposed to answer this?
Yes.
Okay. How do you become successful? You just have to have a lot of motivation and perseverance, tenacity, and just don't give up. just keep trying. Really keep trying. I'm the true testament of that. Like, as many times as you fall, you fight for what you want. Do not settle. Keep trying. Yeah, that's probably the best advice I could give. Like, just keep trying, even though doors close. Just keep knocking on other doors. Something will come up. You'll get that pull. You'll feel it in your gut, where the universe will take you where you want to be. Even if you got fired from another position, or even if you're in a situation where you have to make a choice, like, I have to leave the state. I have so much respect for people who pick up and just move completely different country, different. If you feel that, go. Don't be scared.
Calling, right?
Yeah, don't be scared. That's it. Just, if you're afraid, don't be afraid. Just do it, because no matter what, I feel like the universe will take you where you need to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. The second one. How have you grown in the last year? Oof. I'm still growing right now. Motherhood has changed my whole life. It's probably going to be, a cliche or corny, but for me it is, because I never understood that. I didn't care for it. I really didn't want it that bad, like, earlier throughout my whole life. So for me, I've grown. I started. I'm in a new relationship. I have a new role. I'm a mother. I have a new career. Like, my whole life got flipped upside down in 1 year, which was 2018. Everything that I ever wanted, just boom, right there.
Wow.
Happened. But I made it happen. It wasn't just handed to me, I made it happen. Everything. It just, the timing, timing. I understood what people truly, when they say timing is everything. That concept, it really resonated in me, and I truly understood what that meant. That timing is everything. If it's not your time, it's not your time. And I always struggled with that, because I wanted things to happen now. I wanted them now. So patience, I'm growing as a woman, as a mother. My whole perspective of life has changed so much. I see the true value and what is important and what's not important anymore. And like, I don't miss, a lot of things that I used to do when I was single, and the partying and and all. I've already I did my bucket list already. So there's nowhere in the world where I want to go. So I'm like perfectly happy being home with my baby and my man. I'm happy. I'm like, this is it for me. This is all I ever wanted. And everybody's like, well, don't you want to go? And I'm like, no, I don't miss that. I could, like, I'm a one-man party. Like, I could have fun by myself. Like, I'm a natural. I'm a party girl at heart. So I'm just like, I know I can have fun if I go out, but I have more fun now just being with my kid, and just watching her develop and grow. Like, that's where I'm at right now.
So it brings fulfillment.
I feel that
void.
That void
Wow.
is getting full, So I think that's how I've grown, that, and I'm just learning so much about myself and how the layers of love with my relationship and my child. And I never fully understood. There's layers to love. There's depth to love, and it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And then sometimes it feels like there's nothing, like any normal, relationship or family. It's like, oh, this is so frustrating. You just feel like drained sometimes, but then it's like the next day something will happen and you're like, you fall in love all over again, So it's just like, I've grown a lot, and I'm still growing. I'm just starting.
It's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning.
So I need to ask you, what is next for you?
Well, right now, since I have a new career, basically I'm in a new career. So I just want to be a really good faculty member. I want to be a faculty advisor. So leadership for me now is next. So now that I'm there, I just want to do a good job there, and I see strong leaderships around me, and I'm very observant. I always learn from, mistakes, and I pick and choose what I want to learn. So I'm going to learn as much as I can. I'm going to see who the best leaders are, learn from that, and then I'm going to make my move, because obviously I feel like I was born to be, in leadership. I was born to lead. I was born to mentor. So just helping people be successful. Like, I have a lot of students who are getting hired, and they're in law enforcement now, and
that is awesome.
And I'm helping people, believe in themselves, and it's amazing. So that, wow, I made a difference in their life. Like, they're coming to me for a reason, I'm like, wow, and sometimes you get caught up in your own situation that a lot of it is fluff, and things happen, and sometimes I have to be redirected, and I'm like, okay, my purpose here, let's go back to my purpose here, and be a good mom, just help my daughter be a good person, and hopefully I just want her to make good choices,
Of course.
or just try to make good choices. I don't expect anything crazy. I just want her to see the world for what it is, and I want her to, hopefully she'll love to travel too, and I hope she, makes good choices. So that was a long answer.
No, that was great. From touching base on success to growth, it's really beautiful, and we don't have a doubt that you're gonna be a leader, that you are a leader that's gonna create other leaders, because that's what leadership is about.
That's what I want more than anything. So dreading going back to school, but I'm gonna need that PhD.
There you go.
So I'm gonna need that PhD to be like a dean or an administrator. So right now I'm just learning, growing, trying to be the best faculty member right now, trying to help my students and be a good mom, be hopefully a good wife, just
Absolutely.
I'm just walking in my journey right now.
And it's embracing the process.
Of course. Anna, where can our viewers find you on social media if they want to reach out for you for mentorship, for leadership, advice?
Or even to get hired within law enforcement?
I work at Chaffee Community College in Rancho Cucamonga. So my information is there. And then I do have an Instagram account. It's at TravelMonster77. So TravelMonster77, that's my Instagram account.
Awesome. Make sure you guys connect with Anna. She's a great soul, very empowering, and just feeling the energy. It's awesome. You can follow us at the Unbreakables Podcast on Instagram. You can also follow us on Facebook at the Unbreakables Podcast, Jay Mergs and GiftThePoet. Follow myself on Instagram at _GiftThePoet_.
We also have a Twitter now, so you can find us on Twitter, and then we will include the links below. We also, our website is officially up and running. You can find us at www.theunbreakablespodcast.com. If this message resonated with any of you guys, like it, share it with somebody in need. Coming from someone that can relate to you, Anna, I'm telling you, like, you have to follow your gut. You got to follow your intuition. Because I was in a place where it was law enforcement. I felt that pull, and it brought me here to create this platform, to use my voice and bring other inspiring individuals like Anna on this show to share their story and your testimonials. So I'm telling you, trust your intuition. Will Smith says it. Everybody has fear, but the greatest things on the other side of fear can be bliss, can be happiness. So trust your gut, guys, and go against fear and go against the grain. That's all I can say.
Go against the grain.
And share this, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we are now on all streaming platforms. Thank you, guys.
Thank you again, Anna.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely.
Unbreakable. Unbreakable.